I am disappointed in the Iowa offensive line. I'm going to start there because everybody's been praising the rushing attack and specifically Kaleb Johnson. But Don, you and I have had conversations. I have over and over again throughout each solid rushing performance this season given plenty of credit and praise to the Iowa run game, specifically the entire unit, but also the offensive line. You know, I think Iowa's fullbacks have done a nice job blocking. Iowa's tight ends have done a nice job blocking. Sometimes we give too much credit to a quarterback when a team wins. I think we give too much credit to a running back at times when a run game is successful. Kaleb Johnson's been really good. But I thought we saw today, Don, especially in that first half, and I understand they're going up against heavy boxes and really talented fronts, but I thought pass pro was bad at times, and I thought the run blocking from the offensive line was not very good. But it's hard for me as a non-coach, Don, to evaluate the offensive line in live game action when you're dealing with extra people. We've seen Iowa successfully run against loaded fronts. You tell me what you saw. Were you as disappointed in the offensive line today as I was?
I thought the matchups O-line versus D-line, I thought Ohio State won both those matchups. I thought their D-line in general performed better than their O-line and vice versa. It was pretty easy for them to gain 4 yards on every running play that they had.
But Don, real quick, not to defend the defensive line, but if there's any spot on the field where Iowa should be able to exert its will, it's with an offensive line that is full of 4th, 5th, and 6th year guys, Don.
Right.
That's my issue and why I'm honing
in. That was a disappointment. It's safe to say Ohio State's D-line won that matchup.
So how much of that was just the defensive line winning the matchup? How much is it when they're throwing extra guys into the box? I mean, we've heard a lot about stacked boxes over the last 2 weeks.
Well, in general, the pressure they got was not any extra rushers in general.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
And there were too many plays, and CBS zeroed in on several of these, Don, not just in the run game, but also with the passing game. There were too many examples that were even shown on the TV film of individual linemen just getting beat. You know, Colby getting backed up into his quarterback, Dunker getting backed up into his quarterback. And I'm sorry, I'm going to come down sort of heavy on the offensive line because, like I said at the outset, we've been told throughout the Bryan era, some of these guys were here in 2020, 2021. A lot of these guys who are starting, we've went through this. They're all upperclassmen. Some of them are 5th, 6th year guys.
Right.
And to me, I don't care how talented Ohio State is. If your head coach is an offensive line coach and you've had people who are healthy right now, this entire line is healthy, and you've got 4, 5, 6 years to develop these players, you ought to be able to go into Ohio State and at least at that position on the field, at least at that point, compete. And I didn't feel like they competed very well. And I don't know that I blame anyone specific. Like I said, I'm just disappointed collectively in that unit.
Yeah, let's not forget in terms of development. In recent years, Kirk has assisted with their development, as has Brian, both of which know a lot about O-line play. Not to mention George, of course, as the O-line coach. So at this point in their careers, they should be playing well. And maybe I underestimated Ohio State's D-line. I think they're a little better than what I thought. But the bottom line is they won the battle up front. We didn't win it. If you don't believe it, just think about how many yards Kaleb had after 3 quarters. You know, he didn't have a lot of running room. And a lot of the yards came kind of late. There was a nice run in the 3rd quarter. The only reason it was a nice run is Kaleb didn't run through a tackle. It was a safety attempted a tackle, and Kaleb ran through him. And that was an explosive play, but there weren't enough of them, obviously.
How would you rate Kaleb Johnson's performance today, given some of the struggles up front? I mean, is it hard to evaluate a guy at first glance as a running back in this situation?
Well, there wasn't a lot of room to run. Near as I can tell, there wasn't much room to run. Very seldom did you say, oh my gosh, we got him into a one-on-one situation in the open field, and he got tackled. I do recall on that long run, he was in the open field, and it was Downs that bumped him out of bounds. And you could argue at that point in the game, why not try to put on your brakes and cut back against the grain? Because we needed a touchdown. We didn't just need another gain of 30 yards. We needed a touchdown.
That's not really his style, though. To cut. That's not really his style to put his foot in the ground and then track back in.
No, it's not. It's not. You're right. And for that matter, I made the same note about Weechin. Weechin had a punt return. It looked like it might go for a while, but as we've discussed, don't run out of bounds. It's okay to put on the brakes and try to cut back against the grain. That's what Tim DeWhite did. If Tim DeWhite can do it, then I think Caden can do it also.
And it's things that Charlie Jones did, and I think Cooper DeJean did it. We saw Cooper DeJean do it against Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
On the play that
so
was
that's
called.
The next step for Caden is to be able to stay on the field and challenge him even more downfield than what he already has. Our total offense was 226.
Yep. 226 to 412. So not quite as big of a gap as maybe one would think. I mean, it's a big gap, but it's not cataclysmic like we've seen in other games in recent years against that Ohio State team. But they just had short fields. So the 3 turnovers in the third quarter kills you. Those kill you. I mean, you short fields, you're done. If you don't give them short fields, you got a shot in the fourth quarter. Maybe you're down 14, but you got a shot. But you start turning the ball over, forget it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Their second touchdown drive after they received the second half kickoff, that was probably 75 yards, right? I'm assuming.
Yes, it was a long, but the first 2 touchdowns were long drives. That's why I say maybe you get 14-0 down in the fourth, but at least you're not down 3 scores.
But the difference in those 2 drives, of course, the first one took 14 snaps. The second one, not very many at all.
Yeah, and the second one was the big play to Jeremiah Smith, and that was the one real big play that Iowa gave up all day.